So they're trying to find ways to achieve their goal.
Going back to history, that's where the discrimination of cannabis came from.
Yes.
Because a lot of Mexicans was bringing hemp to the U.S. They used to make cloth, plastic, clothes, even biodiesel.
They should know the metes and bounds. They should have their deeds. They should know where to get this information.
And when Nasri speaks about, that we're already behind the education system, there are some schools that they were moving in a good direction.
How can we mold boys into good men? Society in crisis.
That's the game with the road. We problem now with bloody politicians. We play that game there and think everybody fool. Tell everybody what they do. And if you get money, share it with me now. Share it. But
You think they understand?
most of them don't even know where they go on. That's the game with the road. We problem now with bloody politicians.
Society in crisis.
So they're trying to find ways to achieve their goal.
Looking for the ultimate sea view getaway? Then Sea Belize Vacation Rentals and Tours, located at 5 miles Philip Boson Highway near the Halover Bridge, is your perfect sea view getaway. Come relax in one of our beautiful air-conditioned sea view apartments, studios, sea view rooms, or suites, all with flat screen television, hot and cold bath, and unlimited access to a spacious and refreshing 40 by 16 foot pool with 6 to 4 feet depth. So you can enjoy that fun and refreshing dive or dip in the pool. We sell ice cold drinks, so you can relax and unwind on our overwater or poolside decks. Contact us at 501-615-4485, 65 or 67.
Good night, everybody. Good night. It's a pleasant night here in the country of Belize, and I want to say good night to everybody who's watching on the TV, Maximum Radio and Television. I want to say also a pleasant good night to everyone who is watching on all the social media, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. Good night, and all the others. A good night. Remember, you can watch the show, and people are watching the show throughout the country of Belize. As long as you turn on Maximum Radio and Television, you can see the channel. So depending on where you're currently at, just check for the channel for Maximum Radio and Television. All right, guys, I already see some good nights. Good night, Claudia Simmons. Good night. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, definitely a learning show. Thank you very much. And for always tuning in. Nancy De Paz, good night. She says, good night, Kelvin. Rachel Ann Balaramos, good night. And Thank you guys. This topic is very important. I have been seeing a lot of, and again, let me say that we'll be discussing about investing and about, building, growing wealth. It's a very worthwhile topic. It's a much needed topic, especially in this day and age when we find things happening, that seems to be out of our control. One of those, of course, is inflation. You understand? It's a word that, in a nutshell, let me just say the repercussions. Your money, if it was, valued, let's say, I'm just saying, if you had $10 and you used to get 2 items, you go out now and there's a strong possibility that you'll be getting 1 item because your money doesn't value as much as it did before. So there's also, you've heard about devaluation of the dollar. So it's not like, okay, they say devaluation, but the value of your money has decreased, and there's different reasons for that. A flood of money going out into, the economy and chasing after certain goods, and therefore you have prices going up, and that causes you to be able to purchase less items with the amount of money you used to make. Hence the reason why the increase in salary was necessary. So just in a nutshell, that's a backdrop. I know that it has been such, and again, I could go further into more technical details of inflation, but just in a nutshell, how it will affect and how it has been affecting us, that pretty much, we can go from there. Now, if what we look at in terms of traditional investing and traditional growing of wealth, if I were to go ahead and speak of that without, prefacing it and saying that I can speak all night long about how you can build wealth and how you can start from your young to build wealth. As right and say, 1 medicated powder is $35. That's how it is. So I can speak all of that, but if in fact we have additional expenses, so you can make so much money and your expenses just go up, you're not going to realize the value of, for example, what you're making. You're not going to realize. And when I say value, you have different value. Intrinsic value is one of them as well, It's also just a mindset also of how you value certain things. So we can look at the value of that, not only the financial value or economical value, social value. There's different values. And when you have these particular things affecting, so let's say you start out very young, and some of us will say, okay, well, I've already been there. Some of these things that I'll say might have already affected you. However, you may have children, so you can guide them along, all right? If you have had children at an extremely young age, that's already, additional expenses that is already there, and that will run for 18 years at least, you know what I'm saying? If you have had more than one child, each additional child adds additional years. I mean, this is reality. So if you have had, let's say I'm just throwing this out, 3 kids, all right? So imagine those 3 kids depending on when you had it. So let's say you said 5 years, you had them 5 years apart. I'm just saying, right? So those 3 kids, 5, 10, 15, okay? Now you add on the 18 years. I mean, I'm not even going to count the 9 months in the womb. But you add on, you make sure that you have 18 years. And really it would be more because a lot of times we try to send our kids further to school. So it's not even 18 years that we stop having to take care of those kids. You understand? So, so you're looking at that. So each kid, one after the other, you know, while one may be 15, one may be 10, one may be 5, you have to add all of those and then you'll gonna have to add the 18 years, all right, to the last one, right? So you're looking at least 33 years of your life that you would have literally been, I mean, for lack of a better word, been tied down. 33 years tied down. And I know some people have more kids, so it's more than 33 years. Imagine, imagine, let's say you started just for an even number, you understand, when you were 17 years old. I mean, you shouldn't, but let's say I'm just looking at an even number, right? And, you know, you're 50 years old. Or let's go ahead and put it at 18, 51 years old. 33 years of your life, you would have had to take care, you would have had additional expenses. You know, some people would call it additional burden, all right? And depending on what studies you do call it burden. So that has to be looked at. 33 years that consistently there's, you know, you may have fixed expenses and you may have variable expenses, so it varies. Right? It fluctuates. All right? It fluctuates. But certain expenses, for example, let's say you wanted to ensure your kids, you know, have a roof over their head. All right? So you go out and you try to ensure you get your mortgage. Or you borrow your money, or let's say you don't even go to mortgage. Let's say you rent. Let's say you rent. And so some of these, depending, some people live at one place for a long time. So that becomes, you know, a steady expense. It's fixed over time, right? And that's different than, let's say, variables, whereby, let's say, it's when you take them out to eat, you yourself go out to maybe, well, I don't know if you'll even have time to enjoy yourself. More than likely you won't. Maybe unless you're at home and you try to do a little enjoyment at your house. But other than that, it's tough. If you have 3 kids, it's tough. So, you know, and this is, I mean, I'm not trying to paint a gloomy picture. This is reality. When people, you know, you're going to see, I have watched persons, their life has been really difficult. Really, 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 really difficult. And at the same time, I will watch them congratulating young girls. And when I say young teenage girls having a child, congratulating them, I just find that like hypocritical. I find it very fake. Because I don't think that, I'm not saying you bash your child, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, you know, there's nothing to celebrate in my view. Because that poor child, especially if that child is a teenager, that child now will have a very difficult time to build anything of herself. And I'm going to go straight to the female. It's going to be tough. I'm not saying it can't happen. If you have good parents, a good, you know, safety net, a good structure, you know, family, then you may be able to still move ahead, but that's not the reality for most people. Most people, a parent will help you, maybe not. Maybe for a year that parent might help you. After that, no, that parent has his or her own life to take care of. A sister might help you for a month or maybe 3 weeks. After that, that sister ain't gonna help you. Worse, a brother won't help you at all. None at all. Normally, boys won't help you. You understand? It is very rare that a male will really help, a sister, other than, let's say, okay, somebody wants to, ill-treat that female, that sister, that they may help. They won't help. So it's mainly a parent. Maybe a parent might take, might take pity on that child, or maybe a grandparent. All right, let's say a grandmother or a grandfather, maybe. So this is the reality. This is what we're looking at. A steady expense that you will have to bear. A child has, and I'm doing this backdrop because there may be some young girls watching, and even if you might be of age, already have your kids, tell them come watch, tell them, sit with you and watch the TV or however you're watching. Because this is important, let them understand. You understand? So I already told you if it's 3 kids, and I have seen some persons, sometimes they don't wait even 5 years. At least 5 years you kind of get a breather. Some of them, the kid is every year. All right? So this every year just puts an undue burden. Is a snowball. It snowballs. So if you had that expense, you understand, or in economics you would also call it a burden. If you have that you have to deal, a child takes you, it is said, right? Studies say that a child takes you back 5 years. And they do it 5 years because at least 5 years you have to stay home, or you have to really have a close, watch, and you really have to take care of that child for at least 5 years. Yeah, you understand? Some people get babysitters, some won't. I actually feel it's beyond 5 years, because if you look 5 years, you will see 6, 7 years, you still have to take your kids to school. Especially where you live, it's just getting more developed, more cars, more heinous crimes are happening, molestations. These crimes, it forces you that you really have to take care of your child more. So when the days when we would walk to school by ourselves, like in my days, we would walk to school. I would run to school every day because I love running, and run to school and run back. Those days, it's different now. Yes, there were vehicles already there and stuff like that, bus already and vehicles. However, and bicycles and motorcycles. However, now it is faster vehicles. It is more reckless driving. It's more vehicles on a whole. It's persons, a lot of people riding motorcycles, and some people riding motorcycles and vehicles are not the best drivers. They're reckless, some of them. And so it's difficult to send your child, in my case, especially if you live by the road or on the road, to walk along on the roadside. You're looking at a possible roadkill. So it goes beyond 5 years. So when studies back then would say, okay, having a child puts you back 5 years, it's no longer 5 years. It's possibly 9 years, for example, or 10 years, okay? Because you literally have to babysit that child. And even if you're working, you have either, if you babysit, or you have to pay money to babysit that child and pick up that child and take care of that child and all, and especially with the recent lockdowns, there was added strain to children, to parents and households. So those are expenses. So you have the school expenses, you have the medical expenses, you have the food expenses, which we know everything has been going up due to inflation. So what you used to buy, I already told you, a bag of groceries, you're possibly getting half a bag of groceries now. All right? So you look, and of course there's more expenses because the school, oftentimes they have fundraisers and they need assistance, and there'll be whatever, clothing expense, I think I already said medical, but the point is that, and you have your housing expense, you have these set expenses. You now have to move now, and you have to look at still being able to save and still being able to invest. All right? Some people might think you can't save because you're not making so much money, and I can say there's a way how you still have to try and ensure this. You see, if you have an amount of money, and even, I'm just gonna have this money just for the sake of, make sure it's easy to look at. So let's say you have $100, and yes, your set expenses, let's say, I'm just throwing this out, is let's say 50% or $50. You now have another $50. Now, a portion of that will be, variables, right? It will be depending on what you have to spend on. Let's say for school, they have some fundraiser, they want you to buy something, buy a raffle, so money goes to that. That's not every day, or that's not every month. Sometimes it's just, it varies. And you may have certain, medical expense. You don't get sick every day, at least most people. You don't get sick every day, so that comes, that's just a one-off, or, and then you have, let's say, to buy shoes or clothes. Some people still do their nails, whatever it is. Those things are not, at least for an average person, those things are, you would do those things, some of those things, even you would say disposable income. Certain things you don't have to do. We choose to do it. It's a choice. And it's that disposable income after you've already paid your set, what you have to, what you must, your expenses. You understand? Your core expense. Those fixed expenses, you understand? Light, water, you have to pay those. And yes, it varies because depending on how much you use, it's not a set, most people don't pay a set social rate. So it fluctuates. Again, you look at how that could be kept to a minimum. Have to do that. You have to do that with what? A budget. You have to have a book. I have been somebody who feels very strongly that you have to write down things, and now you don't even have to write, there's apps. You can do it on your phone, but writing down it gives you that you can see. Or if you have your computer or laptop, you have your spreadsheet, and you set aside these things. So you have your budget. So you put how much you're going to make. So I'm just going to throw this out, right? Just so that it's easy. Let's say you put $1,000 for the month that you make. All right, so you're going to have the $1,000. And then you're going to have your set expenses. So let's say you pay rent, all right? And you have your set rent that you have to pay. I'm just throwing this out. Rent nowadays, let's say you get a very cheap place. Okay, some people can actually get a $400 a cheap, you know, house or apartment or room, whatever it is. Because if you're young, you won't need a big house. Now, if you have a child, you may need at least a 2-bedroom, right? So depending, so let's say it's $400 or $500, you have to pay that rent every month. So you see how it already 50% has been knocked off if it's $500. And then you have to pay your light, your water, because more than likely, you know, you may not get a house that they pay those. Some, if it's a room, yeah, you understand? Those are the same ones that sometimes you have to pay by the week, right? Let's say $75 a week. So, or 100, whatever it is. But the point is, so you have your expenses, your phone expense, your light expense. You understand? I don't know if you have cable and water, but I'm just saying at least maybe that's, see, that's already nothing less than maybe $250. So you already have, you only have $250 balance. You see? You see why it's important to have a budget? So now you have that budget. That's right of your Casanova says, indeed, that's true. That's how it is. So you have to have your budget. That $250 now, you have to look and you will know that's where you're going to try and see how you can manage, right? But you see why it's important to have a book or a spreadsheet on your computer or laptop. It's important because then you're going to see that $250 now and see how you're going to juggle that, all right? You have to eat. You have to eat. So you're going to look at it and you're going to say, wow, I need to buy groceries, you see? You see how little you'll have? So because now, remember you only had $250, if that's how you're going to go. So what does that give you? Just $250 a month for groceries? You won't do anything, I mean, you know, $60, you know, $60 and then you have a little $10 extra. I'm just saying that $60 a week. You understand? So you have $240 and then you have a little $10 extra depending on which month. You see? So that $10 now, let's say you already did that. You're going to have to do one or two things because remember you have to save. Cut down on certain expenses. What expense you're going to look at? You're going to look at one, the fixed expense. Can you afford that place that is $500? And if you're in a spot that is $500 and you see something, understand that's not oftentimes you will sign a long-term contract, but let's say you don't have a long-term contract and you see or you hear of somewhere else that says they're going to have it at $400 and you can secure a 1-year rent at least. Of course, move over to that $400. Especially if it's okay, the place in a good area, $400. So one, you have freed up $100, right? You freed up $100. So you have $110, right? Remember, we're going to move to a snowball effect, right? And then a thunderbolt. So you already have that $400. You now have, if you move to another month, you'll have that $600 remaining. Now you're going to also look, remember, your quest will be to save. And I'm telling you it can be done because I have done it. You understand? I may have been, I don't know at what level you're at. I would have been at your level too. And so I'm just telling you how it can be done. Right? And steps to ensure that it happens. So now you're going to look at your telephone. Were you on a plan that was wasteful? Were you on an internet plan that was too much? You didn't need that? Look at the plans and you see whether or not you could, downsize that plan. Right? And your electricity, is it that you don't care, you just will leave your lights on all day and you don't care, you just leave the fan on in the house all day and you're not there. You look at those things. You look at whether or not you just leave certain things in the, just right there and you're not using it. Look at how you can cut your expenses. Water, oh, you don't care when you're brushing your teeth, you just left it running and running and running. You see? No, man. Look at those expenses and you see how you can cut. Try to be more conservative. Be wiser. Be more prudent. All right? You can try and see that you can cut at least a 50 or 100. I'm just saying, maybe a $50. Right? So if you get to cut a $50 from that, remember that's 100, 50, that's 150, and you already had $10. You understand? So that's $160 now. You're in month 2, right? Let's say you move, or if you even want month 3, because it took a little while until you got that other house, right? So let's say you're in month 3. You now have $160. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna say, oh man, I have $160? Preet! I go into the nightclub, oh, I'm gonna go do my hair. I see these lashes I wanna put in. I wanna put on these acrylics. I wanna get a manicure, a pedicure. I see this nice dress or this nice shirt. Do you really need them? The question will be, do you really need them? You want to take the best picture, so you want to have the fanciest phone, iPhone or whatever phone. Do you really need that? Is that a priority? Will that take you and make you reach your goal? Right? If your goal is to, for example, own a house, your own house, own your own means of transportation, will that, spending that disposable income allow you to reach that goal? And if the answer is no, it won't, then you know that you have to be wise and you have to, practice restraint, right? And take that money and save. However you save it, whether it's in a credit union, whether it's at a bank, the point is you make sure you save and you start gaining interest. That's the easiest way to start making and growing your money, right? When we move further, and you have certain monies, yeah, you can invest in mutual funds, right? So you have a more diversified, your money is being invested in a more diversified portfolio, right? But it's not you, it's an entity doing it, but they know what they're doing oftentimes, right? Oftentimes. As a mutual fund, we don't really do much stocks here, let's say in Belize. There's some bonds. You understand? You can invest in those as long as, they're not junk bonds. All right? So you have to look at those too, because you're not just going to invest in, I want to invest in a bond because that's what Ms. Moya said you should invest in. No, you got to look at whether or not, they'll be able to pay, finance, pay the people what they're to pay, and they'll be able to service that. So you look at the management and you look at the background of whoever is offering those, right? And then there's treasury bills, and there's different, other ways that you can save. I mean, saving in certain, bank, normally it's bank, whereby you can get compounded interest and all that. You have to look at those things, right? So you have that money. You have to start saving. And I'll tell you, if you start saving from then, at a young age, right? What happens, especially if it's in if it's in a medium whereby it's compounded, the interest is compounded, you're getting it at a compounding. Imagine your money would have been going like this, see? Just like this. Just like that. That's how a snowball, right? So it's like, it's rolling, but it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You see? But you start when you're younger so that it's easier, more so than, let's say, when you hit 50 years old and you say, oh my God, I need to save. I need to save. And then you try to put way more money. You try to put way more money and you think you're going to gain so much. No. That money, let's say if you're looking at retirement then, right? That money, because of the short span, see, it's just like this, see? If this is rolling and it has a short span to roll, right? It won't snowball as big as if it started, you understand, from young and it was just going up and compounding and compounding and compounding and compounding and compounding and going up here. Do you understand? So you want to start from young versus start at an older age, because you will put in more money at an older age, but yet you will make less. Okay? All right? So those are areas that you'll have to look at. All right? Yeah. Nancy says people have Netflix now, and it's true, Nancy. Let me just tell you, Netflix, you know, the premium, there's no premium you can get now, but the rates, they have steadily been increasing those rates. And as a matter of fact, with Netflix, very soon you won't be able to share. You won't be able to share. So now, and I know all over the world, it's not only us who have Netflix or who would get Netflix. For some of us, we'd share with family members. Now, you understand it. They'll check and they'll see how many people have that password. They're going to stop it. You're going to get a notice saying too many people using this account, and that person, unless somebody comes off, you won't be able to watch. So I'm just telling you, I think it's already started. So you just have to be careful, or it's going to start February right here, something like that. But you have to watch that. Right? Do you need Netflix? Will Netflix help you to own a house? Right? And I'm going to look at a house, right? Because a house is very important. It's not prudent for you to just rent your entire life. If you can take that money and put it towards owning your house, when you get older, that particular expense will be done. Right? So if you were paying, and of course rent does go up, so if you were paying, I'm just throwing this out now, $1,000 a month, depending on what year it would be. When you own your house, right, that stops. That $1,000 is either going towards your mortgage, or if you've already paid your mortgage, that becomes disposable income. But if you don't think about owning your house and you're contented with just renting, know that reaching that end goal when you're older will be difficult, because even when you're older, you will still have to be making that money to continue paying rent, versus owning your house and the only thing you'll be paying is that light and water and telephone and Netflix or cable, whatever it will be. So plan, right? Have your journal or your book or your diary and ensure that you write these down. If you don't do that, you'll run a risk of overspending. And yes, you can overspend if you have, for example, a credit card, or if you have a job and you go to a loan shark or a money lender and they say, okay, well, as long as your boss can give you a letter and the money is deducted straight from your salary, you think, oh, everything is good. For example, recently someone came to me and they spoke to me, right? And Nancy says, when we go digital, it won't be so easy. So true, so true. Right? That's another area I can get into, but let me hold on. Recently, this particular individual came up to me, she was saying, okay, she wanted to borrow some money, right? So I told her we were discussing what she makes and how much she wants to borrow. And I looked at what she wanted to borrow for. And she was going to borrow, and she was going to be paying, how much was it? I think 15% a month, I think. It's either 15 or 20% a month, something like that, one of them. And I looked and I showed her, this is per month, right? This is not 1% per, or per month. This is 15% per month. So I told her, I said, I calculated it for her, and I showed her how much she would have spent over the period. But I also asked her, how long were you looking at to pay this loan off? She had no idea. Absolutely no idea. And I said, okay, so you don't have any idea when you want to pay it off. That's a double whammy. Because if you have no idea, you will just continue paying that at such an expensive interest rate. Right? And it will just be a burden on you. You literally would not be achieving anything. Not at those interest rates. You see? When people go to those money lenders or those loan sharks, it should, I don't, if you have to, it should be a one-off. It should be a one-off and something that you can pay back within a very short period of time. It's not something that you should be looking at that you'll be paying for 2 years. You don't go to a loan shark for that. You go to another financial institution, you can hopefully get it at maybe a 6%, 4%, 5%, 8%, depending on your, the credit risk or your credit rating, whatever, that they look at your capacity to pay, your character. And I looked and I advised her, I showed her, and at the end of this day I said, I just put it out so that she could see because she didn't understand, and I showed her. And after a while she saw that if she were to move ahead with what she wanted to pay, just by using her salary, but not, because then she said her other half got a job. So I said, well, okay, since your other half got a job, and I looked at what he was making too, and I showed her how she did not have to borrow that money. She didn't have to borrow that money. Because what she was going to spend it on, they did not need that amount of money immediately. They could have paid for that. It wasn't a huge amount of money. But it was such that had she borrowed it, it was just, the interest rate would have just snowballed. It would have become unmanageable for her. So I showed her how, by her salary and her other half salary, how she would be able to pay for the item during a period of time, right? Because even if she had borrowed that money, she wasn't going to spend the money immediately, at least for the project that she wanted to work on, do. It was going to take a few months. But she would have had to start paying back at that high interest rate immediately, because that's when she got the loan, right? That's when she would have gotten the loan. So I showed her how just by, and you have to look at these things, that you can, instead of having to borrow, and you're not in that capacity to be able to pay back quickly, you see how you can pay for that same thing. Let's say it's an addition for your house. And you know that your husband or your boyfriend, him and his brother, let's say, will only be able to work on that house on a weekend. One day out of the week, let's say, one Saturday, because Sunday they want to go to church with the family. So just on Saturday. So they won't be able to build a house within a day. Within a week or 2 weeks. So it will take a time. So you look at every time that person will be trying to put a little addition to the house, a little addition. There's a strong possibility, depending on what you make and how you work out your expenses, that you will be able to buy, let's say if they're going to put on a siding, right? Or a door or a window for that day, that you'll be able to pay for that, every week. And you won't have to be shouldering that burden of whatever they lend you at 20% interest rate, 15%, 25%, depending on what you use. If it's a credit card, it can go up to like 23, 25%. Right? And there are some people who live off credit cards. So look at that manner. If you don't have to borrow, hold off. Try to use your savings. Try to cut your expenses. Try to make sacrifice. If it is that you're somebody that you have your child, for example, and you always want to be splurging. Oh, your child has to look the most, fabulous and have on the most expensive tennis and shoes and fixing the hair, and you just want to be able to show off on social media. Will those get you where you want to be? Will that help you to achieve what you want to achieve? Ask those questions, right? And hence the reason you will plan. You will have your goal, what you want to achieve, right? So you have to have your goal, right? I can get into business and talk about mission and all, all I want. I'll make it simple. But the actions that you take to ensure that you reach that goal will be such that you will start to deliberate and you will look and try to achieve your goal in wisdom, right? And you have to pray for wisdom. So I looked at how you can ensure that you have that aspect okay. You're not overspending, and you are at the same time achieving and gaining what you want to gain, right? The savings now, because remember, you invest in, let's say, in a house, right? Maybe there's a vehicle you wanted to pay. I understand you'd want to get a new vehicle. Can you afford a new vehicle? Right? Do you need a new vehicle? Do you drive all over the place that you need a new vehicle, and do you need a big Escalade? Or if it's a vehicle, can you operate on a pickup truck? A very fuel efficient pickup truck? A car? A 4-cylinder small SUV? Right? Look at areas. Can you work with a motorcycle? Right? Maybe you don't want a bicycle, a motorcycle. Can you work with that? So, depending on what level you're at, look at that. Don't overdo it once you start to get that disposable. And I guarantee you, right? I already told you you're going to watch how many kids you have. Because all this I'm telling you, and if you are having kids every year, you're not helping yourself, you're not helping the children, you're not helping the situation, you're not helping the country, you're not helping your community. Because if you can't afford those kids, and those kids grow up, depressed, frustrated, they act out because maybe they're not eating well, they're not getting what they want, there's many different repercussions. Some people might feel, they hold a grudge against their parents. Why did you bring me into this world when you know you couldn't afford me? I don't want to get into the fact that some men and some women, they're selling their children. We won't go there. But you don't want to be one of those parents where you're pimping out your child. Because this is real. You have parents pimping out their children. because they can't afford their lifestyle, they can't afford to take care of their kids, so they're pimping out their child. Not even themselves. And especially if they think nobody wants to buy them, but they want their pretty daughter or their little son, because there's sick people out here. So it gives you, in a nutshell, what is happening. It opens your mind as to how things, you know, you put all your eggs in one basket. You've never seen how that can actually be a problem, you see. And I always speak about, for example, even the work, if you're investing, you put all your investment into one thing, and you know that particular industry or that sector goes belly up, you lose everything. And hence the reason, if you can, you try to diversify your portfolio. And if you can't do that, like through jobs or through, you know, your business, and that's why there's also like mutual funds, you know, that they will be able, that investment is such that it's diversified. It's a diversified portfolio that you're investing into. So this is something that is even more important. The World Economic Forum put out this video, and I felt that it was it's a telling video. They don't give any ways how to fix it, but they have shown the scenario in terms of women and the situation where they're at, especially now. And we know that. I've spoken about this. We've spoken about this. We know this. Kelvin, I'm going to want to watch that video here. It's a very short video, but it focuses on women. So watch it quickly. Watch it. And then I'm going to come back and speak on that and try to wrap things up. All right, so what you just saw is something that we knew. And even if you did not know that women, you know, they feel the brunt of it, a lot of us who are living it knows it. And there's different reasons for that. It's not only, okay, women makes less money. Many times it's also women, it's a type of job that they do that they make less money. For example, some particular jobs, people say, well, it's more dangerous. So women won't do those dangerous jobs and make that amount of money. You understand? So sometimes it's not that, okay, it's the same, a man and a woman go for a job and it just so happened that a man will get it, because sometimes people would prefer the woman because the woman is pretty, or the woman they feel will be, you know, will be more easier to manage, will be more loyal. So there's different reasons why they may want to hire a woman. Some people just prefer dealing with women. You know what I'm saying? They prefer talking to women. They trust women more, right? So sometimes women will get the upper hand over a man. And I'll tell you, you see, that's how it is. Like, even me, I like working with women because I feel that they are more, oftentimes, there's like 1 and 2 times a male may, be reliable. But to me, and I'm not saying all women, because I've had certain women who have been the worst. They have no sense of dependability on them. Very unprofessional. But for me, to a great extent, it has been the women who are better workers, who are more stable, more loyal. They want to. And why is this? Right? Why is this? Both of them may have the same level of training, experience, or lack thereof. But what? The woman may, go ahead, move further ahead with the job because oftentimes she has to take care of the child. Ain't no man taking care of the child oftentimes. So she has that additional burden, so she has to work. A man now, and there's some gigolos now, sometimes they're not even going to pay anything towards a child. They're not going to, and I'm not saying all, some men I said. They may not even care. They have kids and you would never know they have a child. Or you will never know they have 8 kids or 10 kids because they do nothing for the children. It would have been better they were never born. And I'm telling you, because there's some men, and it's not only here in Belize, in the Caribbean, in all over the world, there's men, certain men, who do not take their responsibility. They don't take the job of being a father seriously as they ought to have. Right? And hence the reason we can get into and all the crime and all that, you hear about that. But the women oftentimes, when was the last time, very rare, that you would see a single father? It's very rare, very rare. It's oftentimes a single mother. Very rare you're gonna, that's why the term is single mom, single mother. You rarely hear single father. And why? That mother has a love, oftentimes. First of all, she breastfed the child, right? She has that close bond to the child. So even if that father leaves her for whatever reason, that child will stay with her and she will fight for that child. She literally will fight for that child. And you will say, well, why would she fight for that child when she's struggling? She's unemployed. You understand? But it's just that love, that motherly instinct, that care. You understand? So we have to look at that and the situation, especially as a single mother or a single parent, or even a single father. It is getting in such a manner that providing for children and even for those men having more kids, going out there and just, impregnating women, it has to stop. It really has to stop. But this is a way that you cannot give up. You cannot give up. There's no room for giving up, especially for those who may be watching and saying, man, but I already have 3 kids, I already have 5 kids, and this. No, don't give up. The only time you'll give up is when you're dead. You understand? You've given up your life, done. That's fine. But until then, no. I showed you different ways. There's always a way. You may think that you'll never be able to save. You understand? I'll give you a little thing. I try not to speak much about myself because sometimes I say, sometimes I feel people learn of how I've been able to achieve certain things, and sometimes, you say, okay, well, some people might say, oh, she bossy. But let me just tell you, when I was younger, for example, my mom did she got a credit union book from my younger sister. She's 1 year younger than me. She didn't get for me. She got for my younger sister, right? My younger sister never saved. She never saved. She didn't save. But because now my mom saw me that I would accompany my father everywhere, and I would take my little money, whatever money that they had given me, and I would save it and I would turn it over. I would turn it over, right? I would go and I would buy my goods. When my dad was buying his goods, I would buy my goods. I would go to school, right? Oftentimes it would be weekend, buy our goods. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever, every day of the week, I would be selling my goods at school. So I would be making money, turning over money, turning over money, turning over, and I already told you about how I would, what I would do with, if my mom gave me pastries to sell, and certain sweets, and so I would put it in half. She would get her full amount of money she expected, and I would get that same amount because I would put it in half. You understand? Hey, that's like you say buy and sell, right? So wholesale, and then I retail it, you know what I'm saying? But she got what she wanted, and I was able to save. So for every week I would be giving her money to go put in my account. Every week, give her money. And what she did, she saw that I was the one saving, and then she put the account in my name because I was the one, and so I was just saving. I would be selling my stuff, saving, building more money. From a young age, I was building wealth. You understand? And I went to do my bachelor's degree in the States. When I came back, right, I bought my first vehicle. I was able to buy my first vehicle. I did rent a house for a very short period of time, right? For a very short period of time, and then I bought my first house, right? I bought my first house. I think I was like late when I was either 24 years old, or like the first month when I hit 25. I bought my first house. I had already bought my first land when I was, 24, my first land. And then I wanted to build my dream house on that one. But then I still ended up buying another house. I told you I was like late 24 years old, early 25, like 1 month. I think it was like June, early June, when I had just turned 25. I remember this because it was the year that I went to do my master's degree, right? I had won a scholarship and I went to do my master's degree. So that's why I can remember this. And so I did those things, I had my vehicle, I had bought 2 land at that time already. And I'm telling you how I did it. I did it just like how I saved, and that's why I'm telling you, even if you have not done so, you can ensure that your child does it. Like your child, you understand? And then when I came back, of course, I bought my other house, right? I bought another vehicle too. But you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. You see? And you might say, oh, well, Z, no, I wasn't born with no gold spoon in my mouth. I listened to my father. I tried to ensure that I did the right thing. I'm not saying I was perfect because I was getting into fights, just like a tomboy would. I was getting into fights. I would do things that a little tomboy would do, But I also managed and ensured that I did a lot of good things. And saving was one of them. And growing up, so I bought my first house, my first vehicle, my second house, my second vehicle, third vehicle, just like that. Boom, 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 boom. Just like that. My other land to build my business, you understand? And, was starting it. I always tell you guys, my first 10-acre property, building my cabanas on it from a very young age, And I did that mainly because of self-discipline that you can do. And your child, you can instill these values in them. If I can do it, you can do it. Right? Because my father died when I achieved, for example, the day I bought my first land and I got the papers, that was the same day my dad died. The same day my dad died. So I can't tell you that I had my father holding my hand right along. No, I achieved those things after he died, right? So I didn't, and my father was awesome, wise man, but I didn't have that. But that didn't stop me. It certainly didn't stop me, and it can't stop you either. You see? When I moved ahead and I said, okay, I've achieved these certain things, already doing my cabanas for my business and so forth, and dealing with the unions and doing those stuff, and then 2 years, a year and a half, almost 2 years after, then I ran for politics. You know what I'm saying? And the rest is history. But you see, I achieved those things before, and that's what you have to do. You have to try to achieve things before you get into areas, whether or not it's having a family, whether or not it's whatever it is. Achieve those things that will stabilize you early on. Start saving early on. Because I'm telling you, had I not achieved those things, bought my houses, bought my land, bought my vehicles before I got into politics, because when you're campaigning, you don't have, you can't work, you're not working. You know what I'm saying? So, that you have to have money to carry you through. You have to have money to carry you through. You know what I'm saying? And so you have to at least have a foundation. So if you want to then, let's say, move into a business, not everybody will run for politics like I had done, but, I'm not saying it's easy or anything, because with fairness, I was, I did have good jobs, right? As a head of department government service, you do get good benefits, right? And so those are areas that I can say those were good, very good areas. That helped me. But even if you're in the private sector, that can't stop you from saying, okay, you can't achieve this. You can do it. I won't say anything further. Suffice to tell you, though, that this is just a look at how we can build wealth, invest, and instill this, because the first thing we need to do is instill it into our children, right? You have to be their role model. You have to be the example to them. You have to show them and walk them through and tell them why it is important. You are the role model. So that's what I wanted to share tonight. And with that said, it has been it has been a pleasure doing this show. I want to thank Kelvin LeBron Moya Flowers in studio at the Master Control. Thank you very much, Kelvin. I want to thank Ben Ruiz and Michael Salazar at Maximum Radio and Television. Thank you, guys. I want to thank all of you, the viewers watching throughout the country of Belize, and of course, from throughout the world on whatever medium that you're watching. It has been a pleasure. Thank you. Try to put these into action. If you're in the area by Belize City, you can visit Sea Belize Vacation Rentals. This show is sponsored by Sea Belize Vacation Rentals. The website is www.seebelizevacation.com, and the phone number is 501-615-4465, 67 or 85. Awesome vacation rentals, big old pool, beautiful pool, right by the seaside. You will absolutely love it. So give us a call and visit us, and I'll see you right here, same time, same place. Have a wonderful and enjoyable week. God bless you all.
Looking for the ultimate sea view getaway? Then Sea Belize Vacation Rentals and Tours, located at 5 miles Philip Bolson Highway near the Halover Bridge, is your perfect sea view getaway. Come relax in one of our beautiful air-conditioned sea view apartment, studios, sea view rooms, or suites, all with flat screen television, hot and cold bath, and unlimited access to our spacious and refreshing 40 by 16 foot pool with 6 to 4 feet depth. So you can enjoy that fun and refreshing dive or dip in the pool. We sell ice cold drinks so you can relax and unwind on our overwater or poolside deck. Contact us at 501-615-4485, 65 or 67.